Welcome to the latest episode of 305 Vox Populi here in the studio at St. Thomas University. We have incredible guests. We have Ambrosio Hernandez. How you doing, Ambrosio?
It's great to be here. Thank you. Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Mayor, because I'm used to addressing you as Mayor when we've done interviews at Channel 23 News.
On Univision, definitely.
It's great to be here.
Quick background on Ambrosio. Ambrosio is an incredible anchor for Univision 23. Hundreds of thousands of people tune in to his shows every single night to get the news. But there's a bigger story. There's a story of how he got there, the trials and tribulations. And it's an incredibly powerful story and one that's going to inspire all the folks watching today. So Ambrosio, to break the ice, when was that day when you were a young kid in Cuba that you said, you know what, this is the path? What was that one moment that you decided that this was going to be your path in life?
I must have been probably around 10 years old, and I was playing baseball in the streets right on my block, and I heard this radio news show in Cuba that is called Radio Reloj, clock radio. They give you the time every minute, and there are two announcers, and it's 24 hours. It doesn't stop. And so I was a kid, and when I heard this, I was pretty much hypnotized. And I left the ball game. Where are you going? I said, I don't want to play now. And I went towards this house. I come from a very small town in Cuba, like a Mayberry, the Andy Griffith show. Everybody lived with the doors open. Everybody knew each other. So their door was open like everyone else's. And I was standing right outside their door. You could hear the news show from the street. And I was just standing there. And he said, well, you want to come in? I said, yeah. And I would just stay there, sit down, listen to it. Sometimes I would just stand right outside. And since that day, I knew I wanted to do that. I knew that was my thing. And every time that I played ball with my friends, it started getting less and less of me being active in the game, because whenever the couple turned on their radio and I heard it, it was something that called me. And then I started doing that on my own as a kid.
That's phenomenal. And that's I know you're a man of faith, so that's God giving you
yes,
those signs at a very young age.
Yes, I respect everyone and their faith, but I am a practicing Catholic. I'm not perfect, but I do believe that God gives everyone a gift, and it's up to us to develop that gift. You can have it and never use it, never bring it out. So just to give you an idea, my first Christmas in the U.S., in Chicago, I didn't ask for a bat or a bicycle. I asked for a tape recorder. And I was 12, and I used to sit and pretend I was a radio announcer. And later on, I got married and became a dad at a very young age. When I was 20 years old, I babysat. I took care of my oldest daughter for a whole year in the morning, and then I would go to work in the late afternoon. So after I would put her to sleep, I would go and take the tape recorder out, take El Diario Las Américas. This was in Chicago. We couldn't get the El Nuevo Herald there. We got El Diario Las Américas, and I would sit there and record myself doing a newscast, and then show it to everybody. Hey, what do you think? And then as one day someone said, "Is that you?" And then I said, "I'm getting better." And then the opportunity came, and I was ready. That's another thing. You have to be ready when the door opens. If you're not ready, the opportunity just will bypass you.
You just touched upon something that I think a lot of people don't know, right? The Cuban exile community, specifically here in Miami, is huge. It's still growing. But your path was different. A lot of people don't know that you, when you all left Cuba, seeking freedom, you went to Chicago.
Chicago.
So talk to us about that journey growing up in Chicago and how it eventually led you back to Miami.
When we came from Cuba, we went to the Freedom Tower downtown for the Cuban exiles. That's the Statue of Liberty. So they would ask you kindly not to stay in Miami because there were no jobs here. So they're like, they kind of encourage you. If you want to go up north, they didn't tell you have to. If you want to go up north, we'll take care of you. So they, would pay you the airfare and all that. And Cubans were going to Boston, New Jersey, New York, and Chicago. So we have family in Chicago, and we went there. It was a huge culture shock for me, coming from a small town in Cuba, playing in the streets, swimming in rivers, going to Chicago. And when you first get to a new country, you don't live in an area where everything is great. So we moved to an area that we could afford. We were new arrivals, so I could not be out on the street all the time because there were bad things going on. You had gangs and all this, so I didn't even know English and all that. So to me, to be able to just play inside instead of being outside, it took a little bit before I was able to do it. And then the whole Latino experience came, which, by the way, I invite you guys in journalism class to maybe look at this phenomena. And it has to do with, like a Celia Cruz song, Latinos en Estados Unidos. We're American and we're not. We're Hispanic Americans, some more than others. And so in other words, when you first go out there and then in some places, I remember in Chicago, you are not welcome as you thought you would be because you're Hispanic. Miami was a different story. You went up north back then, and they will let you know that you're not part of them. And I can't say everybody did it because my experiences were not very negative. But we started seeing that in school. It was mainly in school. And so then we knew English, we loved this country, but then we wanted the Latino identity. And I remember how we went from, a lot of us, from wearing jeans and having long hair to wearing Latino clothes to make a statement. And that was an experience for me. But it also helped me to understand other communities, other Hispanic communities in Chicago, and to also understand the African American community, which we all got along very well, and then to see the American community also. Not everybody was not unwelcoming or anything like that, but I saw that in school and I wasn't expecting it. The Cubans in Chicago, the Cubans in Miami would say on December 31st, next year in Cuba. The Cubans in Chicago would say, next year in Miami. We wanted to come down here because we felt that we were part of this community. And obviously, I never liked the cold weather. Now I go back, I love the snow, but not to live there. So for us, it was a thing, we want to go to Miami. And obviously here, it's where all the radio booming experience was happening in Miami. Television, back then, it was only Channel 23 News, nobody else. So I wanted to come here for that reason also. I knew where my career was going to flourish more here.
So from God showing you that door from Radio Reloj when you were a kid, when you said, you know what, I'm not going to play in the street anymore, I'm enamored by this, how did you walk through that door, get here to Miami, and start off your career?
It was not easy. I mean, I talked to some of my colleagues today, older colleagues than myself, and they go, hey, remember cuando tú eras un flaco and you used to come down here, you're a skinny guy, you know. Not that I'm not, I'm still kind of, but, you know, they were like, you came here, you had long hair, and we didn't even want to give you the time of day. I came here 3 years in a row, driving my car, take I-95 south, and then take I-95 north, because I couldn't find a job here.
From Chicago. You drove from Chicago to Miami 3 years in a row.
But the thing is, I was preparing myself, like I mentioned, at home. And then I finally got a job in Chicago doing radio, but they would not pay me because I was not a professional. They gave me a minute to sell. I'm not a salesperson. So, and I had to work, you know, I had a family. So I had a full-time job, I had a part-time job, and then I had the radio from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. And in a place like Chicago, you have to get to your job 2 hours, drive 2 hours before. So that was, you need a lot of discipline. So once I got that, and I think I was pretty much prepared, one of the times I came to Miami, I met the king of radio in Spanish in Miami. He passed away, may he rest in peace, Armando Perez Roda. He was the voice, the leader on radio. And he said, more or less, like, you kind of remind me of me, because he was not from Havana. He was from a small town. So he knew, you know, the way I was feeling. He says, you know, Chicago is a huge city, but he says, I'm going to give you a chance. Just give me a chance to get things ready. And I thought he was just being kind. That happened on 8th Street, right outside where you have that sign that says, welcome to Little Havana. WQBA used to be on that building in the corner on 8th Street and 27th.
Got it.
And right there, he said, I'm going to call you when I have my radio station. I'm planning to buy a radio station. A whole year passed. I went back to Chicago, and the man called me. He had, you know, he had a word. And I came here, but I was a kid. Everyone was a DJ. And I was in my early 20s doing radio with these professionals that were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. So that's how I was able to come here to Miami to do radio, and then television just happened by, I think God also had that on the path there, waiting for me to be ready when the door opened. But you have to, it's all about discipline. I was telling one of the students here just a little while ago, I said, don't let anybody break your dream. When I had this dream in Chicago, and I was not making any money at the radio station, you know, I had people very dear to me that they told me, man, you got to give it up, man. Because look at you. You're working. These people are not paying you. And I said, well, they can't pay me. I'm not a pro yet. I need to learn how to do this. And but there was someone in my family, my grandmother, who told me one day, she said, do you want to sit on a rocking chair 20, 30 years from now and start thinking and say, God, I didn't try it. What would have happened if I tried? Or say, I tried and I failed, or I tried and I made it. And that was it. I knew. I said, you have to follow the dream. So I tell everybody, don't let anybody step on your dream. And you have to be consistent with that. And you have to be disciplined. Discipline even more after you make it. Right now, I think I work more now than ever before. I love what I do, thank God that I've been given this blessing. But it's all about discipline and hard work. Don't let nobody fool you. You can get into the business by someone helping you that have a lot of contacts. But if you don't have what it takes, people will see right through you, and eventually you will fail if you're not prepared. If someone just gave you a hand, oh, he's so-and-so, so's son or whatever. You come in, but can you stay in the ball game? Can you stay? Can you stay? Step up to the plate? Can you do it? So that's where discipline and dedication and hard work comes in. I have not met anyone that has been successful, and I interview a lot of people that first they had that discipline and they had the love and the passion for that. See, when you have passion for something, there is a purpose. I was not thinking, I'm going to do this to make money. I wasn't making any money. I felt like I was on cloud nine when I was in the studio and I was not getting paid for it. Why? Because it was my dream and I was fulfilling that. So the people with a purpose don't sit down and go, I'm going to do this because I'm going to make money. That's probably a businessman. I don't have anything against that. But when it comes to these type of jobs it comes from here and it's something that God put in your mind and in your heart and your soul, you don't even think about being famous or becoming famous. All you care about is to do the job and to be able to be with people that are working in radio or television or whatever it is that you want to do. So that is a very, very important thing.
So Ambrosio, from being that kid in the small town in Cuba and dreaming, going to Chicago, not being welcomed at first, right? Having to work very hard, having to drive via I-95 south all the way to Miami 3 years in a row, sitting in studios in Miami, not getting paid, just listening, learning. And then today, you are the anchor in prime time for Univision 23. Hundreds of, if not millions, hundreds of thousands of people trust you to listen to you every single night. And on top of that, you have your show on Sundays, which everybody watches, Al Punto Florida, to the Point, Florida. And how does that feel? How do you reminisce back and understanding the grind, the grit, the years, the trials, the tribulations, and then seeing it today, coming all to fruition, where tonight you're going to be on TV again on Channel 23. You all got to tune in, and you understand that all these people, an entire community trusts you. How does that feel from that entire journey?
First, I feel blessed. I'm grateful for the blessings that God has given me and the people that have helped me along the way. And above all, the viewers and the listeners, they're the ones that open the doors of their homes for you to come in and give them the news or on radio or television. But I'm going to share some with you guys. I don't think I've ever said this, but it's one thing I've learned. You have to listen. I'm not preaching, but you got to listen. You got to listen inside. Sometimes the Lord will put things inside for you to say that you don't know why you're saying them. Obviously, you have to be responsible about what you're saying, but someone is going to get the message. It's going to hit someone that needs it, probably. I look back, and I look back in fear. I've told this to my wife. She's like, well, why? I mean, you made it. You're doing this. I said, well, because I look back at my other colleagues that did not make it. I look back when it was 4 o'clock in the morning and I was driving in the middle of a snowstorm to the radio station, not getting paid for it. This is in Chicago. And now, back then you're doing it, but now I look back, I'm older. I'm like, kid, man, what were you doing? You really had, a lot of courage to do this. So when I look back, Manny, I sometimes I get this fear of what would have happened if I didn't make it. And then I think about the people that didn't make it. But then I come back to reality and I say, well, thank God I'm doing it and I'm blessed for it. I don't know if a lot of people are going to believe this or not, but I don't, the Man in the Mirror, Michael Jackson's song, right? I don't look at myself and say, I'm Ambrosio Hernandez. I'm just me. It's just I live with me. And so I think that's probably one of the things that have kept me grounded along with my faith. But no pretensions, no. And I think that, believe it or not, it took a few years before I knew who I was or what was it that I was doing, because I was just so submerged into giving the news, doing their job right, and cumplir. You know, you have to do what you need to do and do it right. That I was not even saying to myself, behind that lens of that camera, we have hundreds of thousands of people watching. So I still sometimes, I have the responsibility of what I say and what I do, but I'm a down-to-earth guy. And I don't say this to be pretentious or anything. I was at Winn-Dixie a few years ago, and this lady comes up and she goes, "What are you doing here?" She says, "I'm buying milk, just like you are." You know, they think I probably have someone that goes and gets, you know, stuff from you, and I don't not that. You can do that, but I like to be among the people. I don't like to take refuge in my house and not do anything. So I don't see myself in any other way. My wife says that I transform myself when I step into the studio, and I'm a different person. Well, it's because that's my job. I don't know anything else. I've told them, I say, you guys are gonna have to kick me out. I don't plan on retiring. You know, I'll do a radio gig somewhere. I mean, I'm not gonna. And now with the internet, you can still do it. But I love what I do, and I'm submerged. I'm in this, and I love to do this, and I love to talk to young people and let them know, it's your dream. God put it there. Sow the seed, you know, give water to the seed so the plant comes out, and then take care of that plant, of that flower. That's the gift. And another thing I learned, and it's in the Bible, by the way, I think it's from Paul, which is, don't look to the left, don't look to the right, look straight ahead. And I learned that from my family and from the teachers, and when I went to Catholic school in Chicago, briefly, and they said to me, it says, just, the competition is with yourself. Don't compete with anybody else. It's all you need to, whatever you're doing, you want to get better because you want to better yourself, not because you want to be better than the other guy. And that is a recipe that I have kept, and I keep and will keep till the last day of my life working, because it keeps me focused. You know, hey, more power to you if you got an exclusive and I didn't. Then I'm going to try to get another good exclusive. I'm going to try to be the best I can with myself. Once you start looking at the other guy to compete with the other people around you, whatever it is that you do, you lose track. You lose sight of where you're going. You got to know where you're going and stay focused. It's like the North Star. Always follow the North Star.
That is very true. Ambrosio, something we do a little different on the show is that the youth, the students here, the college students, high school students, they have about 4 or 5 questions for you. And then we turn it around, you get to ask me questions. So we're going to hand it over to them right now. I think they got 4 or 5 different students that are going to be asking. Great. Who's going first?
I'll start. So, given your situation growing up in Chicago, with the language barrier, what would you say motivated you and kept you going even when you had all odds against you to be where you are now?
I really can't give you the right answer. What I believe is that God had put this inside of me, and He gave me the strength to just keep hammering at it. And that's who I am. My family, my grandmother was huge also in my life. In like, just do what you need to do. Have faith in yourself. Do this, do that. So maybe not looking, how can I put it? I knew I was in that situation you just described very well, but I did not dwell on that situation. I say, I got to move on. There was a song back then with my generation. It was called "Keep on Trucking," and so you just keep on trucking, man. Just keep doing your thing, and that's what I did. I did not dwell on the fact that I had barriers and all that. I kept coming back to Miami, and I told one of the people that finally helped me. I said, "So did you guys finally give me a job because you think I'm good, or because I was just a pain in the neck?" Keep coming and asking, persistent, But yeah, I think it has to do with the fact that God gives everybody. We all have different personalities, and what's the best thing I can probably give you an example? I'm a musician. I play guitar. I'm a worship leader at church, Our Lady of the Lakes. And I wanted to play guitar when I was a kid also. Music called me also. But this news was the biggest. And I suffered a trauma when I was a kid with a guitar because my parents did not have the money. There were no guitars to be bought in Cuba at the time, even less now. But so the man that was teaching kids guitar, it was one guitar for all the kids. Hey man, 15 minutes. Hey, got to pass it on to the next guy. So I gave up on that. Took it up when I was already an adult here in Miami. Went to Sam Ash, bought a VHS. It tells you how long ago it was. And after the 11 o'clock news, I would sit on my bed at night, try to remember the chords and play. My colleagues were, "Man, you're in your 40s. What do you think? You're going to play guitar? You're going to be able to do that?" When I focus on something, I focus on that. I left everything out, and it's not something I needed to do like as a career, but I have passion for music, and I got an instructor, a teacher, and I've kept at it. So you see, even though I was older, not that in your 40s you're older, but I was not a teenager learning guitar. I said to myself, I want to play, and another thing, the visualization. I would visualize myself playing at church or playing up on stage with someone better than me, and I did it. That's God. I'm not preaching again, but I did not know what I was doing. I saw myself playing a George Harrison song with my guitar teacher, and it came to pass. But it didn't come to pass just like that. I play guitar also. I practice at home. Before I do my Sunday Mass, I practice at home. So when I get to church, the people will like what they hear. So it's that responsibility, you see? Responsibility, organization, discipline. I think it's just part of it.
Hi, I wanted to ask, how would you describe the evolution of media and technology throughout your career since you started in the 80s? Like you mentioned, you went to Sam Ash and to pick up a VHS. So
yeah, right.
So how would you describe that evolution in technology from using VHS, Betamax, CD?
Right. Well, first I have to go back to when we got the news from teletypes. I don't know if you guys know what they are or used to be. Huge machines about this big, and they would constantly be going chuk, 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 chuk. The wires would be coming out through that. That's what you see in old movies. I worked with that, and it was full of paper from here to the door. So we took a little a stick from a broom they would saw, or a ruler, and then you would grab it and start rolling all the wires. Then you get on a table like this and you start cutting the different news, and then on the wire itself, the paper, you would edit. There was no time to write it, so you would edit all that, and the local news I would get from translating them from radio, in a cassette radio. What I've seen the evolution from the wires to the old typewriters. I'm a typist, so I can type fast because of I studied that in high school as a freshman. So, the old typewriters, from that to the faster typewriters to computers. And it is an evolution, not only a physical evolution and visual, but also the way we are going to report the news. So more news are coming. The world becomes a community. It becomes a small town, really, literally the world. And then, so what do you do? How do you pick and choose what you think people want to hear that it is news? Obviously, local station, we have to do it for our community, and then we give more stuff about Latin America and the countries of origin from where our viewers come. And so then this came in. This changed the whole game, because now there are a lot of people posting stuff that is news and some it's not. So we have to be careful every time we get something through here, verify it, verify the source, and know that it is true before we tell the people. Yes.
I wanted to wrap up the questions with this one. Obviously, as an anchor, you have to report informatively as opposed to persuasively or anything like that, right? You have a more informative role. However, can you think about a story that you reported on that just drove you very emotionally? Like, it's not that you cried or anything like that, but like that.
Oh, I did.
That for you, it was like, man,
but
I
I
can't believe society is capable of this or something like that.
Well, but I did cry, and it was only me. Not only me. I think everyone cried in the studio. Many of you might not remember because you're very young. There was a young kid here, Ronnie DeSillers, in Miami. I used to do I was the bilingual host for the Miami Children's Miracle Telethon, and met some great people doing that, and great families. So I would go to Miami Children's Hospital to walk around the hospital and visit some of the kids and all that. We used to do that maybe once, twice a year. And one day that I go in there, I see a friend of mine. I go, hey, anyone from the family sick? She goes, forget about me. There's this young kid I want you to meet here. Anyway, we did the story, and every other station did the story. He needed a transplant. I believe it was a kidney transplant. And it became national news. But see, I had already become friends with him. So from that day visiting him, I would go back whenever I would get a chance. I remember I had a model car, Batman car. You used a glue to put it together and all that. I was supposed to give it to a friend's son, and I had it in the trunk. And I'm in the hospital. I go, hey, I'm going to give this to Ronnie. So I go in there. He was a grown-up. He was going through a lot. So he looked at me and he goes, you think I'm going to put that together by myself? You got to stay here and do it. And I'm not good for that. So, but anyway, I had to help him. So it became national news. People were rushing to find him the transplant. They found it, and he passed away. So the day we gave the news, on the air, boom, tears came out, and everyone in the studio, when the lights were turned off, everybody just couldn't move from the chair. And when we give the news, we of these type of very human type stories, you get attached to the person without knowing them, because you get to know them by the follow-ups that you do every day in the newscast. But when you meet them in person, it's really there. And that happened to me with Ronnie DeSillers. The first time that happened, there has been maybe 3 or 4 more times, but that was the first time, yeah.
Appreciate those questions, guys. Great job. Ambrosio, so we turn it around. You get to ask me some questions. Then after that, as we wrap it up, we're going to ask you to do some inspirational, motivational words for that future Ambrosio Hernandez that's going to be in your shoes. So, but first off, any questions you got for me? I know this is your comfort zone.
A journalist
so
always has a question. We always have it. We covered, I had you on my 1-hour political show on Sundays about the the bridge here in Miami Lakes and all the controversy and all that. So finally, what feedback have you gotten from the opening of the bridge in 170th and all that, and people that were concerned about traffic, you know?
That one made me kind of famous in Northwest Dade, right? There were people that were really happy, people that were really upset, but it was okay. That's part of, you know, public service. But a little quick tidbit that I've never shared, but I'll share it today. Some of the most powerful individuals in the county, I remember, or throughout the entire South Florida, would tell me, Mayor, you're crazy. I mean, there's no chance that you're gonna stop the county, the state, the city, the Hialeah from opening up both bridges into your community. And I'll never forget when we signed the agreement, people were looking at me and said, how did you get the county and everybody to sign off to keep 154 closed, which was the most important one to us. And kudos to Mayor Bovo being a great dance partner there. We worked together. But with the opening of 170th, I could tell you today, we haven't seen the influx of traffic that people thought were going to happen. It's almost the reverse. The people that would traverse our community to get to Matter Lakes, or I think Albert's one of them, that for example, he lives on the other side of the bridge. So now instead of going through 87th Avenue, he takes the bridge and makes a quick left, and it's relieved some traffic from our area. And there's going to be the connection ties to the turnpike's going to be done very soon. So, look, it was a tough one. Again, there were a lot of people that were really happy with me, and there were a lot of people that were very upset with me on both ends when we were fighting it, you know, and when we did the agreement. But listen, that's part of taking on those leadership mantles, right? So.
Thank you for answering that. I have one more. You see, I was looking down. This is a game changer. Before we had paper, we had a notebook. Now everything is in here. So I want to ask the mayor about the license plate readers, the LPRs. And just to, I hate to keep talking before you answer. As a journalist, it is important for people at home when they're watching you to see that certain things you look down and you're reading what it is, you know, because that shows you that you did the homework. You took time out to ask the mayor, for him to text you, to find out the real name. I can just say, hey, what about those cameras that are helping the Miami Lakes prevent crime? No, you know, you want to tell the people what the name is and see that I'm doing my homework. So that is part of the new journalism.
See, usually when we have guests on the show, they're like, how does it feel being mayor? These soft, fluffy questions. I have the top journalist in our area, so he's tirando duro. He's doing it. So LPR is a great question. We realized something in Miami Lakes. The vast majority of the crime happening in our community was being committed by people who would steal a car in another community, drive in, commit a crime in Miami Lakes, and then leave. And then what would happen was people would pull the camera footage from their homes, give it to our detectives. Our detectives would do their due diligence, and the car was gone because all they did was leave the car somewhere, change the plate. And we said there has to be a better way to stop this crime before it happens, right? So we installed in the entrances of our community license plate readers. That has nothing to do with ticketing folks or anything like that, or red light cameras. These are simply if somebody drives into the town with a stolen vehicle, a bolo, warrant out for them, any major issue, a stolen tag, every single officer that is on duty at the moment gets an alert on their CAD, on their computer in their car, and pinpoints exactly where that car is at. For example, last couple weeks ago, there was a violent criminal from another community who was wanted for committing a very violent crime, and he drove into our community, and he was, I guess, scoping out one of our neighborhoods. What he didn't know was that those hidden cameras had alerted every officer who was on duty that he just came into our community. So without him realizing it, this individual, the suspect, in about 10 seconds, he had two officers. He had parked his car and they blocked him in and they took him into custody before he was able to commit a crime. So I think since we've installed this system, we've arrested close to 30 plus individuals who drove into our town with a stolen vehicle, with major bolo, But these aren't like folks that are being looked for insurance issues, anything. No. These are violent criminals, major felons with warrants, people that law enforcement throughout the country is looking for them. So it's changed our public safety completely. So now we literally have the lowest crime rate in our community's history because we're stopping crime before it happens. So,
Paul, I want to take this opportunity to invite you to my political show so we can talk about this and other stuff.
You see what you guys started? You see what you guys created here? I look forward to that. Definitely take you up on that. So, Ambrosio, thank you again for being here, inspiring folks, and just listening to your story. That is so powerful. But can you share, in closing, some few words to the students here and everybody that's going to be watching this show, just to inspire them, motivate them, and understand that it is possible to follow in your footsteps? Because you hit it on the head. People think that the folks in power, they're or in positions of prestige, that they have to come from wealthy or powerful families, or they need the Miami palanca to get in there. But I think your story, when folks hear that, kind of changes that perspective. But share some few words in closing of inspiration.
All right, Manny. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm really blessed to have been invited and to be able to talk to this young group of students. It is very important for me to talk with them and also listen to what they have to say. My message to you is work hard. Be disciplined. Stay focused on your dream. I believe it comes from God, the dream He puts in your heart. So you work hard, discipline, and you focused on your dream. Don't let any circumstances tell you it is over. No, you're the one that says it's over. You have to keep trying. And once you make it on that road, you have to be open-minded. Don't get yourself, closed in about this or that. You have to be open to all kinds of people that might come your way to help you, and opportunities. Be attentive to that. Sometimes we can't see that. It's right in front of us and we can't see it. And once you make it, I'm going to tell you what someone told me many years ago. Once you make it, you got to work twice as hard, because that's the way it is. And also within the environment, even now as a student, focus on your dream, but be open to your colleagues. Try to be a leader in your school and in your workplace, to always think about others. And sometimes others have to shine and not you. And be prepared and be wise and be a good person to take the back seat and let someone else be the one that shines in that moment, because there are careers that are very competitive. Don't lose being competitive, but don't get into trying to push people over. So that is a very important thing, to become someone in the newsroom, in this case, where you can mentor people and where people know that they can come to you and ask you a question, or even tell you, hey, do you think I did this right or not? And for them to know that you're not going to be telling anybody else. You stay between the two of you. It's always good when you give. When you give, it feels a lot better. When you help other people, it just feels great. And remember this, I am not special. I am not above anybody else. I'm not special. I was just a kid who had faith, followed a dream, worked hard, still works hard, and just be very disciplined. So anyone can do it. If I came from a place in Chicago where it was hard for me to go out because, the neighborhood was not that good or safe, and then later on, I knew what path I had to take. And my parents were not rich. They worked in factories like most of the parents of Cuban exiles. And they sacrificed themselves for us. If I can do that, and I came here without knowing the language, you can do it also. It's just to I keep saying that. Stay focused on your dream and just follow that dream and work hard and be disciplined. It will happen. It can happen. It can happen. I tell you that.
And there you have it, the incredible story behind Ambrosio Hernandez's journey to being a 305 legend. And remember what he said, don't build your life on the shattered dreams of others, but pick others up. So tune in next Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Thank you. Thank you, man. It's been great. Thank you, everybody.